with black supremacy. And with this particular video, I want to debunk Solace's theory that homosexuality originated in Africa. Now, other people have said this, and I emphatically disagree with it. Lord Jamar has said something similar. Lord Jamar's argument is that civilization came out of Africa, that black people or Africans are the origin of all civilization. So homosexuality would have to have come out of Africa. I disagree with that. I think a lot of people migrated and mutated, and they brought some things back to Africa. Homosexuality being one. They brought back some cultures and some customs that are not originally African. That's a whole nother conversation. My argument with Solace is he tries to say that the origin of homosexuality can be traced back to two different things. One, the laws of Ma'at. And two, Akhenaten. Now, Akhenaten didn't show up to 1353 BC. So we have to say that Africa was untainted up until 1353 BC to say that Akhenaten is proof if he was homosexual. But I'm going to debunk that as well. Then he tried to use the 42 laws of Ma'at. These laws didn't show up to at least 25,000 BCE. We would have to say Africa was untainted up until that point. That it was not invaded up until that particular point, which I don't think we can say safely. Because we know the Turks invaded the Greeks, and specifically the Hyksos dynasty in 1650 BC. There was a mixed race of people, we could say Europeans. So to say that it originated in Africa, you have to find the time period in Africa before it was invaded to say that this is purely African. And then you have to separate the geographical location called Africa from the African. Are you saying that it came from the African, or are you saying it came from someone who inhabited Africa? That's two different things. If somebody came and brought it to Africa and you trace it to them while they were in Africa, then that's geography. If it came from the African, uninvaded, unhindered, unmixed, if it came from the pure African, then you could say it originated in Africa. But you have to show me a time period, and you have to show me evidence before it was invaded by any other race, ethnicity, or culture, migrant or mutant that returned. Now, you tried to use the 42 laws of Ma'at. But the 42 laws of Ma'at are not really laws. Bobby Hemmett broke that down. They're affirmations, declarations, proclamations, not laws. It says, I have not laid down with nobody with the same sex, because the ancient Kemites, the true Nubians, were a clean and pure nation. So they affirmed their well-beingness. They said, I have not done these things. They didn't need laws. They were self-realized and self-proclaimed. So those weren't laws. But you say because they say they have not, that definitely means that homosexuality exists and that the 42 negative confessions were prohibiting homosexuality. Then you want to say that Akhenaten is proof that there was gays in Africa. Now, Akhenaten was not a homosexual. He was not attracted to people of the same sex, nor is any proof that he participated in any sexual acts with a man. You say, oh, he's gay because he looked gay. But he had 4 wives, one being Nefertiti, and 4 daughters. He was a heterosexual, Akhenaten was, also known as Amenhotep IV, son of Tutankhamun and Nefertiti. And Queen Tai. He was heterosexual. He looked feminine, but he was born that way. Some people confused him as a hermaphrodite. But a hermaphrodite is not a homosexual. It is a person with both sexes. One usually more pronounced than the others, and typically they cannot reproduce. There's no proof that he was a hermaphrodite. Just there's no proof he was a homosexual. There's zero evidence of that because he looked gay. He was born like that. Many thought that he was retarded because he was born with that big gut and slender hand and a slender face. He had feminine features. But he was a heterosexual male as a historical fact. You can't go back and look at the walls and say, oh, there's definitely gay because he looked gay to me. That's not scholarship. That's not research, Solace. The 42 laws of Ma'at came in. Let's look at the timeline on that. And see exactly when that came in and what king did that come under. It came under Pharaoh Menes around 229-25 BCE. Is that before Africa was invaded by anybody? Was that time period a reflection of pure African culture uninvaded by anyone else? These statements are not backed by any true research. There's no connection between Akhenaten and the 42 laws of Ma'at. 2 totally different time periods to make a homosexual case about Africa. I just had to touch on this. He took the video down. I think maybe he realized it himself. Those are some weak and very immature, childish arguments. Africa is not the origin. No one has proven Africa being the origin of homosexuality. You can say that, oh, Akhenaten looked like a transvestite or a drag queen or whatever by your perception, mixed in with a modern day consciousness and culture and custom. Because the way he appears to you, but that still doesn't mean that he is a homosexual. And laws that were administrated around 25,000 BCE or 2500 BCE is not proof that homosexuality originated in Africa, nor laws found in 1250 BC in the Book of the Dead. the Papyrus of Ani, nor the finding of those laws prove that homosexuality is original and indigenous to Africa. No proof. Hyksos brought a lot of culture to Africa. A mixed race. Your Europeans was your Hyksos. They came in. The Greeks also. Alexander the Great came in. We got to do our research before we make these statements, because we want homosexuality so bad to have been, so it had to be there. We have to give it an African origin. That's how attached we are to homosexuality. We couldn't possibly believe that it was born with the migrant and the mutant. This devil. This King Noble Black Supremacy.